Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to paint this Dreamcatcher. We're going to be working on a 16 by 20 canvas. It's been primed once with acrylic gesso. I let it dry and that just preps the canvas and it keeps that paint looking nice and bright over time. So I'm using one of my large Filbert brushes that I like to use for working on the backgrounds. It happens to be number 30. I also have a number 50 and these are just kind of nice to have. You can use them for foliage as well. I'm just going to start coming in and creating a very abstract type of background first using some ultramarine blue, and then I'm going to be using a little bit of lilac. So if you don't have a pastel purple, just take any kind of purple and mix it with white and that'll look just as pretty. So I'm just going to start from the edge of the canvas and kind of just pull almost like the same way I would do to create sun rays, and then I'm going to start to come in turning my brush over where I have that handle kind of pointing towards the sky, and I'm going to start applying the paint a little bit thicker in some areas and then creating those soft little scoops that's so easy to do with this brush because the Filbert brush has that kind of half moon shape and end to it. So if you don't have a Filbert brush, guys, I definitely recommend having a few different sizes of them, at least one, but I would recommend getting a few different sizes because they're really worth your while, and you can use them so much for so many different things in paintings. I've got a little mop brush now that I'm using. It's dry. I've just picked up some of my light purple and I'm just going to start tapping and pulling around, dragging, using my brush in all sorts of different ways just to get a different kind of blended look and a little bit more dimension in the sky, I guess you could say. So creating little circles, scumbling around to make it look kind of soft and cloud-like. I'm going to finish off by just softly pulling and flicking, barely touching the canvas and the paint at all to give it that really swept, dreamy look. I've got my palette knife just to scoop out some of my titanium white. I've got a small fan brush and some neon orange. I'm going to just kind of mix the two together to get a really beautiful peach color. And then I'm going to start using the fan brush to create little wispy looking clouds and little kind of cracks and peaks in through those clouds where we're going to have some soft sun rays coming through. So if you've never really considered using a fan brush for clouds and skies, I hope this is going to change your mind and kind of open you up to a new way of thinking about the fan brush. Now sometimes you can notice I'm using just the corner, one corner of my brush, pushing and tapping just to create smaller little areas here and not that kind of scoop design that you get with using the full width of the brush. And I kind of alternate. And you know, the paint underneath is still a little bit wet, and I kind of take advantage of that because I like the color I get. It's kind of a muddy tone, but what people don't understand when they're beginning to paint is that you need those muddy tones. Those muddy tones are important. They're kind of just balance out a painting that has a lot of color in it. So it helps accent all those pretty colors and gives it just a nice balance so you don't have too much color and you've got some nice earth tones or muddy tones in there. So just that little bit of purple, light purple with this peach together makes kind of a smokiness and dreaminess to the sky that I like. So there's just a little tip for you guys. Don't worry if you end up blending and you didn't do it on purpose, but you're left with a bit of a muddy tone that's kind of a smoky looking muddy tone. You can really take advantage of that and it'll enhance your paintings. I just decided for the fun of it, because you guys know that I love fantasy and whimsy in my paintings, I just decided to kind of add a few little hints and suggestions of some waterfalls there off to the side. Most people think, when they think of a fan brush, they think of waterfalls, like, you know, watching Bob Ross as a kid, he always used a fan brush to create beautiful waterfalls. Well, he used other brushes too, but the fan brush is what really is what I remember. And so people tend to think about the fan brush as a waterfall brush, and definitely is, but it's so much more. So you can see here how I've created this sky and these clouds and such a pretty delicate effect. It almost looks like there's little hints and suggestions that maybe there's some doves and birds back there too within all the clouds and the little sun rays. So I'm switching over to a Filbert brush now, and I'm going to take my blue here. I've got ultramarine blue, like I said earlier. It's very close to cobalt blue, so if you don't have ultramarine, you can use cobalt blue. And I'm going to just come in on the edge and just overlap and make it a little bit darker and deeper in tone here. Just saturate it a little bit more around the edge. And I'm going to do this in a few other areas too. So by doing this, I'm creating a little bit more depth, shadow, and light, making my painting look a little bit more 3D. Now I'm going to purposely make that muddy tone, that smokiness, almost like a tan color, taking that purple and that peach color together, and I'm going to just kind of add a few bits of it here and there down here on the bottom, and then side to side, flick with my brush and pull. I'll take a little bit more on the peach side this time, and pull and flick. So I do a little scumble and then pull and flick for some soft sun rays. And when I want to create a little bit more detail, I'll use just the very tip of my brush. I'm going to come in with just straight titanium white here and make this really, really bright, so we get that nice feeling of that bright sunlight right from here. The source of the light coming right from there, it really draws our eye in, and this is going to make for a really dramatic effect when we come in with our Dreamcatcher that's mostly in silhouette. So we'll do a few little pulls and flicks for some more little sun rays, little wiggles with the end of my brush for a few more details in and around those clouds. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry quickly and then take a little bit of my neon pink by Holbein. I've got another dry mop brush here slash blending brush. Some people call it a blending brush. I know it as a mop brush, and I'm just going to very lightly scumble over and filter over that dry paint, creating some warmth and saturating this a little bit more. So wherever I'm taking this paint over, so if it's over the peach, I'm going to get more of like a pinky coral color. Wherever I take it over the blue or that light purple, I'm getting different shades, like a bit of violet in there. So it's really, really pretty, and I think it just adds so much and changes this painting up so much. So just by doing that, you guys can see where you can take a painting by adding a different color and applying it over top, as long as it's see-through. And the neon colors that I'm using are transparent. I think most neon colors are. So I'm gonna just kind of do a freehand here, circle that goes off the edge of the canvas. We're not going to see the other side, and just using my Filbert brush here, and then I'm going to do another one that's attached to the bottom right, and then I'll do one that's down right on the bottom and the left. Really simple, just freehand it, guys. You don't need to overthink it or trace or anything. You can definitely do this. And then I'm going to add a little dot in the middle of each one, and then start adding the little dabs for beads and the little strings that hang down. And then what I'm going to come in and do is add some white and even some of the neon pink for the beadwork. I think that'll look really pretty and kind of set off the silhouette and just go with the theme of all the colors in this painting, keeping it really in a limited palette, I guess. We're not using too many colors in this painting, and everything is sort of complementing each other. We definitely have some complementary colors going on. That peach is really complementary with the blue and the purple. So So I want to add a few strings dangling down here, and then I'm going to add a little bit of white and pink and start adding some simple little taps and pulls for the beads. Now you can add, improvise, design your own type of dream catcher just by adding a few more beads or less. You can definitely do this painting in any colors that you want. Just let this be a little guide and source of inspiration and motivation for you guys, or definitely follow along exactly step by step how I'm painting mine. And I want to invite you guys to join Patreon, where you can make requests and get more content, early access, as well as monthly giveaways. So every month you get a chance to win one of my original paintings. And I also want to invite you guys to join my private Facebook group, where you can share and upload your versions from my tutorials. I'll leave links for both below this video. It would look really pretty and dreamy to tap in some little dots here and there for some stars, some just glowing little orbs and stars in the sky, and then just soften with my finger. So I want it to be bright but kind of have like a soft haze around it, I guess. So you can just use your finger to do that. You don't even have to use a brush, but if you're more comfortable using a brush, you definitely can. I want to make them all different sizes, so I'm going to be adding a few more later on, and I'm even going to be using what is really surprising to some people, an old toothbrush. So an old toothbrush can be really effective for some techniques in a painting. So don't throw out those old toothbrushes, guys, and always have a few on hand, because you'll be amazed at what you can do with one of those. So I'm going to come in with my fan brush here, and I'm going to demonstrate right now how to make feathers so easily and effortlessly just by letting the fan brush do the work for you. You get those very soft little feather effects on the end. You don't have to paint one little hair at a time or feather at a time using a liner brush like some of you may think you have to. No, not at all. Just take a fan brush and very lightly, and you can create a lot of flow and make them curvy so that it gives them movement, and it feels like there's a breeze blowing and they're kind of just blowing off into the wind. And yeah, you can create a lot of movement and some pretty little feathers just by using a fan brush. So I'm using a few different colors where the light may be hitting some of the feathers on the end. I'll be using a little bit of my pink, purples, and then I'll be using more of my ultramarine blue where I want it to be the darkest. So no white at all, where I want to have it to be the most silhouette looking. I'll just go straight into my ultramarine blue and use that 100%. Okay, so after doing a few more feathers here, I'm going to come in and really brighten up some of these beads. So I'm going to use full strength, full on titanium white. You guys know, if you've been watching my channel for a while in my videos, how much I love titanium white, because it's the brightest and cleanest, and I just really love it. So I'm going to just tap in lightly. I don't want to push and over blend too much. You'll lose that. So sometimes less is more. Just tap and leave, push and tap and leave it. Unless you want to blend it in and have it look a little bit more transparent, then you're going to kind of blend that into other colors that may be still wet on your canvas or your painting. But for some of these beads, I want them to be really bright, and for other ones, I want them to be a little bit more subdued and more in shadow. Remember, we're getting a different light effect throughout because there's movement happening, and you really want to create that light and shadow effect in your paintings. You don't want them to be flat, so you need highlights and shadows, and then you need some mid-tones or mid-shadows going on, if that makes sense. So just for an example of what that means, if you were working in black and white only, you could have just black and white, and then in between you would have gray tones by taking black and mixing it with some white. So maybe that can kind of break it down and simplify it a bit for you guys. So just think like that, but when you're using color. So I'm going to come in with a liner brush, a lot of water to help that paint flow out of my brush a lot easier, and just create my own little pattern here. You guys can follow along, or you can make up your own, any kind of pattern that you want. You can think of it kind of like a spider web, and then add some more swirly, like just kind of exaggerate those lines a little bit more. Or think about mandalas. You could go by a mandala pattern. Yeah, these are really, really fun to create. And I just want to quickly give a shout out to one of my lovely, dearest patrons, Lisa. She requested requested a Dreamcatcher, not this specific one. She kind of just let me have free reign and choose which one to paint. And so I just want to say thanks, Lisa, for all of your amazing support, both here on YouTube and Patreon and Facebook. And thanks so much for requesting this, because I mean, I never would have thought of painting a Dreamcatcher. Honestly, I always think about just landscapes mostly, and I am so surprised at how much I enjoy painting this. So I'm really happy that you requested this, and then I'm getting to share this one with you guys all today. So after adding that little pattern, I decided to add a few little sparkles and little stars and highlights with a bit of white here. So I'll soften some of these areas, and then where the strings or the rope kind of attached to the circle or the frame, you'll just kind of pull a little line and make it look like it's a little bit arched, so it looks like it's wrapping around something, and it'll give it that 3D round effect, if that makes sense. So again, just taking my little finger and just tapping to make them look really soft and give them a subtle glow to them. Okay, I'm going to continue with my beadwork here, highlights, and then I'm going to move on to the patterns on the other two little circles on the bottom there. So again, just making it up, just being very intuitive and free-flowing with it. It's really fun for me to do this. I find it easier to do this than to actually look at a reference photo and try to copy it. To me, it's like a big math equation. I don't know, I'm kind of a different painter. I really like to do things intuitively and freehand. So like I said earlier, feel free to paint whatever kind of pattern that you want, or you can copy mine if you like them. Right, so I'm really happy with how this is looking so far, but I want to come in here on the right, and I'm using a little round brush here. This is a really cute round brush. It's more of a stiff one, and I can have a little bit more control with it. And I'm just testing this brush out here to see how it would work for making some feathers. So I'm going to use this one here with a little bit of water, a bit of my blue, and give it a lot of flow, a lot of curve and movement. And I'm happy with that. Now I want to create some more stars in this sky. So with an old toothbrush, I dunk it in water and then I scrub into my titanium white. I turn it over and I pull my finger up and flick. So I tried to do that. I tried to slow that down, put it in slow motion for you guys so that you could really see that spray on there. And I don't overspray. I just do this once or twice so that it doesn't kind of overpower and distract too much. We just want to add little touches that enhance our painting and help bring everything together and create a nice balance and harmony, I guess you could say. So after I sprayed that, I tap lightly in some areas over those little sprays to make some of them a little bit bigger and hazier looking, so they're all different. Now I'm just going to enhance the edge here with a little bit more of my neon pink. Another color that you guys could use is neon rose. If you got the collection of the Holbein neon paints, which a lot of you guys have been doing, I know from Patreon and my Facebook group that you guys are getting the sets, which is really nice. So the luminous neon rose is also a beautiful color that you could add to this painting. So you can see here, I'm just going to add a few little pink little stars and orbs around before I finish this painting, and then tap a little bit of a brighter pink. So just taking a little bit more of my white in there to make that a little bit lighter. But I really enjoyed this painting. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me and for all of your continued support. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please go ahead and do so. And you'll want to tap that bell too, because a lot of people are telling me that if they don't, then they're missing my videos. So it is really helpful to tap that bell, take advantage of that so you don't miss my premieres. I have a lot of premieres with live chats where I connect with you guys one-on-one and post quite often. So I just want to say thanks again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Have fun painting this, and I'll see you all soon in another video. Bye everybody.